sit down and listen. And our song will be followed by an inspiration by Jaime Mendez. Welcome, Raymond. You can be seated.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin in me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin in me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow to take each moment and live each moment in perfect harmony. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin in me.
That was amazing. I was looking forward to hearing solo for some time. So thank you, Ryan, and thank you. Diplomacy is fundamental for a peaceful and functioning world order. It is so important for several profound reasons: conflict resolution, global cooperation, promoting interests that advocates trade, security alliance, or human rights, and of course, maintaining peace. We are very fortunate to have our esteemed speakers today to share their time and thoughts. Thank you. I want to pivot my remaining time to share an important issue within our club. In a few weeks, our club will have an open forum to discuss the hard work that our Rotary Task Force has discovered. If there's anything I can do right now to make a difference for our club, is to advocate for everyone, and I mean everyone, to attend this meeting. You see, recently I had an uncomfortable feeling of dealing with direct pain, a root canal. Everyone here who's been through that understands that you must take immediate action because the pain will not go away. It will get worse. So we act. We act to fix or cure the pain. Seattle 4, our club, is in pain. Some in Seattle 4 will say that we're a check writing club, yet our participation for SRSF and IR are not optimal. Someone in our club will say we're more now service oriented, yet this past Saturday was maintenance day at our precious Boys and Girls Club, and I was there with 4 people. In 2017, there was over 40. We are a club in need of self-discovery. We all need to meet and discuss what is the best direction forward, because our club makes a difference. in our community and within our members. That's because there's a tremendous passion to give back and make the world better around us. But how do we know where to go if we don't know who we are? So please, join us in a few weeks and tell everyone you can to attend so we can find out who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. And thank you so much to Raymond and Ryan for your beautiful music. That piano accompaniment was awesome, and just every word of that song just resonated with what's important to us. So thank you. I'm going to welcome our guests that are not our diplomacy roundtable guests, as they will be introduced at once. So of the other guests, as I read your name, please stand and remain standing until I've introduced all of you. We have from the University of Washington, Laddie Carr, Senior Director of Global Engagement. We have, you can stand, there we go. We have visiting Rotarian Jeff Gross. He's the president-elect of the Des Moines Club, and equally as important, he is the father of club member Tabitha Claus. We have two visiting Rotarians from the Bangalore, Rotary Bangalore Spandana Club. That's Lakshmi and Sushruth Chatstri. Thank you. I knew I would get it if I just hoped for it to sneak out. And then we have other visiting Rotarian, my counterpart at the Bellevue Rotary Club. We have their current president, Jamal Idris. He is the founder of the Bellevue Rotary Diplomacy Committee, and he is a member of our Rotary Diplomacy Roundtable. We have past District 503 Governor Kay Peterson with us. We have David Della from Seattle International District Rotary Club. We have past President Naranda from the Madras Bay City Rotary Club in India. We have Jody Chikoti from the Limbi Rotary Club of Malawi. Non-Rotarian guests, we have Kendall Guthrie. She's a guest of Maddie Van Hoff. We have Erica Nang Sobzi, a guest of Marcia Matisi. Victoria Alcott, Vice President of the Seattle Perugia Sister City Association at Seattle University. We have Shannon Young, Manager of the Round Glass India Center at Seattle University. We have Stephanie Sanchez, the Design and Media Production Coordinator, Global Engagement at Seattle University. We have Joshua Dalrymple, sorry about that, the Dean of the School of Law at Wuxen University in Hyderabad, India. And we have Nick Gottschall, Managing Director of the South Asia Center. And we have John Kloss, the father-in-law of Tabitha Claus. Sam Shepard, the guest of Don Murphy. And three prospective members, James Williams, Sarah Arndt, who is a guest of Faith Ireland. We have Connor Law, who I understand membership application is pending, guest of Virginia McKenzie, and Andrew Lewis, a guest of John Bridge. So let's give a warm Rotary welcome to all of our guests. Here to welcome some of our roundtable members, we have Mark Cantor. He's the president of the Consular Association of Washington, and he'll introduce our guests that are part of the Diplomacy Task Force, followed by our deputy mayor here to provide a greeting from Mayor Harrell. And then David Woodward will introduce our panelists.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Nancy, for the introduction and especially for inviting us all here. So my name is Mark Ganter, and I'm what's called the Honorary Consul for Ethiopia. I'm also the president of the Consular Association. And just to give you a very short snippet of the Consular Association, we're an association of approximately 50 consulates here in Seattle, made up of approximately 41 honorary consuls and 9 career consuls. And those designations really, the difference between those designations, a career consul is staffed by the citizens of that country, whereas an honorary consul would be a U.S. citizen that is identified by the sending country and by the U.S. State Department. So I'd really like to just start by introducing the different consuls that are here. I will start with the general consuls, and if once I state your name, if you can stand and be recognized, I would appreciate it. So as we start, why don't we start with General Consul Prakash Gupta from India. And with him is Consul Sharish Sharma. And how about Honorary Consul Christina Hukka from Finland? And from Taiwan, Director Daniel Chen. And Consul Jumi from Japan. Consul, I will say Tony. Yeah. Consul Sophie from Taiwan. Now, did I miss anybody? So I think that covers it. So, oh, back here. Mexico, yes, yes. So just really quick, with the consulates here in the area, we play a fairly significant unknown role in trade, economic, and the support of the constituents here in the area. And Seattle, in this particular area, is a very diverse community, coming from all continents around the world. In fact, I think there's areas in Seattle that are most diverse of all in the United States. And so our consulates support the constituents. We also play a big role in trade in Washington State, economic development, and diplomacy, of course. And in today's world, diplomacy is extraordinarily important for avoiding very bad situations. So anyway, I wanted to thank Rotary, for inviting us out here and being identified, and we look forward to the roundtables that will continue. Deputy or Mayor.
Thanks, Mark and Nancy and everybody for being here. I'm Deputy Mayor Greg Wong from the city of Seattle here on behalf of our mayor, Bruce Harrell. And first, I just want to say thank you all for being in this room. Seattle has always been a global city. It's no mystery to any of you here that Washington State is one of the most trade-dependent states in the country, and we always have had a diverse, robust community across all sectors. But that said, we are at a moment in time in the city where that global stage is growing, and it's growing quickly and in ways that create opportunities for all of us. We certainly, obviously, are welcoming our newest Consul General, Consul General Gupta from India. We're so pleased that you're here, and let's give them another round of applause. We've worked closely with the consulate to make sure they're getting established, and we're very excited by all the work you're doing, and certainly with the University of Washington, Seattle University, and across sectors to make sure that that presence is a positive one across our city. We also have events like FIFA World Cup coming in 2 years, an event that is going to bring Seattle into the global spotlight. And events like that are ones that are setting the stage for our future success internationally. As Mark mentioned, we have a number of permanent consulates here and our honorary consuls, about 50 in total now. And that is something that we really value, the work that you do every day. You help us in so many ways that we want to promote the city of Seattle. On our tourism, we know that you're out there talking to to the other countries to get people to come to Seattle. Economic development, creating delegations, creating business ties. We certainly in Seattle are proud of our tech sector, our life sciences sector, our port, all of the ways our businesses can interconnect with other countries. In education, we talk about creating ties between our higher education institutions. So there's constant learning. I was glad to hear the dean of a law school from India is here today. That's a great opportunity. And obviously in hosting dignitaries as they come in to town. So all of these are crucial roles for the Consular Corps, and I thank you all for your work. I also want to touch on something, though, that Mark mentioned that I think is really important, which is we are at a time on the global stage where there is a lot of tension and a lot of conflict. And the role of cities in global crises is becoming more and more in focus. In fact, I'm headed to New York in a couple of weeks to meet with mayor's offices from around the country to talk about this exact issue. How are we cities dealing with global crises? Because those global crises are impacting our work, it's impacting our citizens, it's impacting those who live here, who work here, who visit here. And so we are trying to find solutions. And we know that we can only do that by having strong relationships. And those are the relationships that you create every day between each other, with us in the city, and with the people who live here and who work here. So thank you for that work. I truly believe that we're partners in, as the song says, creating peace on earth. That's what our goal is, to create a more peaceful world, to create a world with shared prosperity. And thank you for partnering that. And we welcome you to the city of Seattle. And we look forward to continuing that work in the years to come. Thank you.
It's good to be with everybody today. I'm David Woodward, and really excited about being in our 10th year of this initiative, which our board launched in 2015, and we in partnership with the Consular Association of Washington. And so pleased to have President Mark Ganter here to represent the Consular Association. But as he was just telling me, it's now up to 70 people. So maybe next year we'll get all 70 to show up. So that'd be really fun. But so I'm going to welcome our speakers up. Unfortunately, we didn't give you a lot of time to eat, but so if you'd like to join me up here on the stage, and then I'll introduce you all as we get settled. While my colleagues are coming up for the panel discussion, I just want to observe that I've been a member since 2004 of Seattle Rotary, and well, I wasn't asking for applause, but anyway, but I want to say that, you know, as a guy who was born in Iran, grew up there, I'm really very Middle Eastern in a lot of ways, and I speak Persian and Arabic, and I'm really from the other side of the world in a lot of ways culturally. And so I found it very interesting, if you would like to come up, Consul General Gupta as well. I found it very interesting that in those 20 years, we did begin to do a lot of programs that were more internationally focused. But something I noticed was that in my memory, we never one time did a program focused on South Asia. And for me, this was the elephant in the room. I mean, why are we not mentioning South Asia? This is an amazing thing to me that we could sort of overlook. I don't know, how many billion is it now? Is it 2 billion? Is it, what's the total? 214? 1.4 billion. Okay, I got the right number there. That's a lot of people. So anyway, it's time. And with the arrival of the Consulate General of India here that is being established, this was the moment. And we're also so fortunate that the University of Washington has led the way with the South Asia Center. And now Seattle University in just recent years has established the Round Glass India Center. And so we now have really a tipping point, if you will, in terms of our region's concerns and interests in South Asia. So this was the moment for this Diplomacy Day. So we're very, very thankful. Let's give a little hand to our group here that have come. So I will just give I'm not going to cut into the time for our comments because it's very important, I think, to give my colleagues here time to really address some of the issues of interest to them. And we will get into some Q&A, so please be thinking about some questions that would be applicable to all three of the panelists. So we do have, as mentioned, Mr. Prakash Gupta, Consul General, Consulate General of India in Seattle, the Republic of India. We have Dr. Radhika Govindrajan, Associate Professor of Anthropology and International Studies and Director of South Asia Center and Chair MA Program in South Asia Studies, University of Washington. And we have Ms. Sheetal JD, Professor of Law and Associate Dean, School of Law, and Founder and Director, Round Glass India Center, Seattle University. And our panel's focus is rapidly emerging ties between the people of the Pacific Northwest and South Asia. So I've got some prompts here, which are what we call softballs. These are not tough questions, okay? The idea is actually to try to get your insights and perspective and really hear that, and then hopefully prompt some questions by about, we've got about 20 minutes for your comments, and then we'll get into Q&A for about 10 minutes. And we may have to share these around if one of them isn't working. So, okay, so I'm going to start with you, and I'm just going to go with first names so it's easy for everybody. And my friend Prakash here, if you could lead off with the question, what are your organization's roles and your own areas of expertise with regard to our region's growing relationship with South Asia? And it'll be the same question for each organization.
First, thank you so much, David, for doing this and bringing focus on South Asia back in the Seattle landscape. Absolutely delighted and honored to be here to participate and join this group of friends in the Rotary Club. Thank you for your leadership. I also want to thank Deputy Mayor here today for his warm and encouraging remarks. You've been very helpful in the process of us getting up and going. So gratitude to you and all colleagues from the Councilor Corps. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, today morning, I am coming from Montana. I had a good meeting there where somebody told me that the population density was close to 6 people in a mile in Montana. And I told them that in India, it's close to, in some places, 60,000 in a mile. And with the population that you're talking about, which is 1/6 of humanity, was actually missing in its representation in the Pacific Northwest. So with us coming here, it would be far more deeper engagement of India with the Seattle landscape, henceforth going forward. So it's a very, very positive development. In terms of concrete things of what our roles include, obviously we are here to serve in the counselor function, primarily the 160,000 strong Indian American community that is in the greater Seattle area. Other than that, what brings us here, I would say, is 4 key areas. One is technology. How do we look at strengthening ties in the open AI, quantum computing, and aerospace technologies? The other, I would say, is trade. I think there's great potential in this area to diversify agricultural exports to India. Third, I would say, is tourism. Indian tourists flock the world over. Seattle is a missing piece. We need to address that. And similarly, we need to get more people from Washington to visit India. And the last, I would say, is the higher education space, where I'm very fortunate to have 2 eminent colleagues from University of Washington and the Seattle University here, where we now think we can work together to develop a better understanding and appreciation of India. So those would be the 4 broad roles that we're looking at as we tee off in our first innings here in Seattle. Thank you.
Excellent. I think there's a lot we could talk about just in those comments. So let's move over to Radhika.
I just wanted to echo Consul General Gupta's thanks to David, to Nancy, to everybody else who was instrumental in this invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here. Rotary is a huge part of Indian social life, which is where I grew up. And so it's a pleasure to have a chance to chat with you about the South Asia region. As David mentioned, I am the director of the South Asia Center at the University of Washington. The South Asia Center is a national resource center, which is funded by the United States Department of Education through its Title VI program. As part of this, we currently devote $2.2 million over a 4-year period, that is our current grant, to advancing high-quality teaching and research about South Asia at all levels of the American educational system, and also are committed to promoting a richer understanding of the region to the general public of Washington State. The South Asia Center does this in several ways. I just want to speak about a few of them to give you a sense of how we actualize these goals. A huge part of our resources are devoted to teaching languages. So we teach a number of South Asian languages. We teach Hindi, we teach Urdu, we teach Bangla, we teach Telugu, we teach Nepali as part of our summer program. And we also fund undergraduate and graduate students at the University of Washington and at some other institutions to take these languages. Students have both the opportunity to study these languages in depth, and if they want, sometimes in shorter timeframes. The shorter time frame, I just want to mention our Nepali program very quickly, has allowed us to engage with people in the broader Washington community who are interested in learning bits of language for global health programs that they might be interested in. We're in Seattle. The Gates Foundation is a huge presence here. And global health and population health is a tremendous concern at the University of Washington. So we've had students who are interested in working in South Asia, in India, and in Nepal and other places take our languages. We also teach numerous courses on South Asia at the undergraduate and graduate level. We train PhD students. We train undergraduates who do research on India. I'm happy to talk about those projects later if there's interest. And I'll also mention that the outreach component of our grant is something that is very important to us at the University of Washington. So we work with teachers at local high schools. We worked with teachers at Issaquah High School, for example, most recently, to try and enrich resources on South Asia in high school curriculums across the region. And that is something that we're committed to doing. But I'll stop there and let Seetal talk about the Round Glass Center.
Thank you. So thank you for having me here, David, and inviting us. Great to be on this panel with Consul General Gupta, Professor Govindarajan. And the Rotary Club, the first time I heard of it was actually in the place where I was born in India. It's a really small town, and my uncle is part of this Rotary Club, it's amazing to see this. Yes. And when I say uncle, I mean like my actual uncle, because in India, everyone's an uncle. So my mother's actual brother. So it's phenomenal to be sitting here in Seattle now. So I'm a professor at the Seattle University Law School, and my work has focused on India doing comparative research, particularly on law. I have a book called Court on Trial on the Indian Supreme Court. And I moved here from Cornell, where I spent 15 years, and I thought what I recognize is we don't have enough academic focus, particularly even on South Asia or particularly on India. So in collaboration with a local entrepreneur, I was able to receive a grant of $2 million to start this Round Glass India Center, which was, this entrepreneur does a lot of work in India, particularly in the state of Punjab. And so the idea of the center is one of the things that we focus explicitly on India, so we can focus on the relationship, focus on the issues. And we focus on contemporary issues as well as issues related to the diaspora. We actually just started in September, and we had with a conference called Seattle Setu, and Setu is literally a bridge. Well, in Hindi, it means bridge. And so the idea is to bridge Seattle and India. We had the pleasure of having the mayor speak at our conference. So we thank you, Deputy Mayor Wong, for helping arrange that. Our goals, the things we've been doing since we founded, I'm lucky to have Shannon here, who's our manager, and Stephanie. We have a lot of collaborations with Indian institutions, one of which is Watson, and we have the Dean of the Law School with us. We've had several events. Most recently, we had the Nobel Prize winner from India, the second Peace Prize winner after Mother Teresa, Kailash Satyarthi. We had another event coming up. The focus of the talk is, do Indian Americans vote their politics or their ethnicity, from a scholar at the University of California in Riverside, who does a lot of data work on Asian American issues. We have many, many events, and all of which are free. And so we invite you all to attend and come to those events. Another thing we're doing is raising scholarships for needy students from India. So we had a scholarship by the first Indian employee of Microsoft called the Ramallah Scholarship. We're also helping research for faculty. So we're supporting faculty research on India and collaborating with Consul General as well as many, many other institutions across India. So thank you.
This is great. Now, so I think we're starting to get a sense of the capacity here that we now have in Seattle that we have never had. The South Asia Center, of course, at UW has been there a while. When was that established?
The South Asia Center has had grants for quite a while now, for over 30 years, but we started teaching Sanskrit in about 1908.
Okay.
So we've had a long engagement with
Some
India.
Good history there.
Yeah.
But now it's really ramping up, and that's really the issue today, is that this is a tipping point. This is a really important moment in the history of this region. And I'd like to focus a little bit on that and how, with what I call the accelerating pace and broadening of this growth in the Pacific Northwest region with South Asia and India, what are some of the most interesting and salient implications of this development? Let's go a little deeper. And we've got about 10 minutes before we go to Q&A, so feel free to take about 3 minutes each.
Look, the growth in South Asia was inevitable. It had to, because at this point of time, when we look at the South Asian market alone, when I said we are close to 1.43 billion people, 65% of that is in the age group of 18 to 30. So it's a kind of a huge demographic dividend that we enjoy at this point of time. These are English-speaking, several of them IT-skilled people who are raring to contribute to India's growth rate. We clocked a GDP growth rate in the last quarter of close to 8.4%. The global average was in the range of 3.5. Now, why I'm saying that is with that kind of market size available and the things that are happening here in the realm of technology, aerospace, data, there has to be cross-integration between the Pacific Northwest and what would be the world's largest market, and possibly the third largest economy in another 5 years time frame. So if I have to say what would be most salient implications, the one that I am witness to, at least in the last 4 months that I have seen, I think one thing which would certainly stand out is the digital story. India is a very big success story when it comes to digital public infrastructure. This size of population, out of which close to 80% is just using digital payments as the primary mode of payment. So we transformed from a highly cash-intensive economy straight to the phone payment system, where now you see even the fruit sellers, the tea seller, just using the phone, scanning and taking payments. So we literally transitioned from a very cash-intensive, without going through the credit card, debit card phase, to a very digital piece in just less than 2 to 3 years. That's a phenomenal development for a developing country, which is still a developing country. So we do believe that India's digital public infrastructure and our unique ID system, which is called the Aadhaar system, and the digital stack that comes with it, has a great potential in the rest of the world. So that, I think, is something which we also need to look at here. While 16 countries in the global south are already trying to learn from the Indian experience and take it forward, and we are working with the Gates Foundation here to scale it up further, I think that is one area, DPI. The second, I would say, is in the aerospace sector. Just for your information, the way in which India's civil aviation market is expanding, it's nearly exponential. The largest commercial contract for commercial planes in civil aviation history, contemporary times, 200 planes, a deal close to $250 billion, is between Boeing and India for supplying 200 wide-bodied planes over the next 2 to 3 years. That's the kind of market size when it comes to the civil aviation space. Again, that's very much integrated into the Seattle space with Boeing's presence here. The third, I would say, is more on the in the realm of higher education. You are aware of Indian students coming in large numbers to either at UW, Seattle University, or other places in the 9 states that we look after. But that needs to step up. When I say step up, it needs to be more institutional. It needs to be more two-way. And it also needs to respond to what the contemporary challenges which the global order is facing. So it also needs to curve its narrative along that direction. And there I would emphasize more of institutional exchanges, more of faculty exchanges, and more of joint research. For example, between the India and the US, now we have something called the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, by which both governments are funding joint research in the field of open AI, quantum computing, and the semiconductor chips industry. So the government is willing to pair scholars from, say, universities here and Indian universities and get them to joint research projects. Just in the AI space, and this is my last piece, why is it so important? The backbone of AI comes from data. 20% of the world's data will be generated in India alone. Again, given the size of the market. So that's why this integration of what's happening in cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad with what's happening in the Seattle landscape, make it seamless, smooth, is very important. And that's what we are hoping to do. Thank you.
Well, you're blowing my mind. I mean, this is pretty amazing stuff. And I knew I'd learned something, but I think, anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing the rest. Please go ahead, Radhika.
Yeah, thank you, Consul General Gupta. I think I'll build on some things that he mentioned. One, I think we have seen in recent years at the UW a spectacular increase in the number of students coming from India. We're also seeing the growth in the Indian diaspora here that's particularly associated with the rise of tech. And so the University of Washington specifically and our center has been thinking about how to respond to new intellectual desires and new kinds of desires for connection. I'll talk about a few initiatives that we've taken in that regard. One, I mentioned that we teach the Telugu language. That's a very recent addition. It's the first time that we have taught the Telugu language in the history of the University of Washington. It's spoken by people estimate over 100 million speakers, and a large number of the Indian diaspora here also speak Telugu. And that has been a response to students who have been interested in learning the language as heritage speakers, but also from other students coming from India who've been interested in taking intensive language. As a result of that interest, we've also had donors recently endow a $5 million chair in Telugu, and this is the Hanuma and Anuradha Kodawala chair, which we will be searching for this year. So we've been trying to respond particularly in the domain of language, which is something that is really important to students. Consul General Gupta mentioned AI. Our faculty have been trying to think about ways to merge the growing interest in artificial intelligence with the interest in India and Indian history and culture particularly. One of our faculty, Rajesh Rao, has been using artificial intelligence to try and decode languages from the Harappan civilization, which is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. So you're seeing all kinds of new initiatives that are building on interests at the University of Washington. And the last thing I'll mention, again, something that Consul General Gupta brought up, the interest in global health with Gates here particularly. There's a huge recognition that a lot of cutting edge global health research and public health research is happening in India. So we have faculty and students who are trying to collaborate with institutions in India, and we hope to deepen those connections with the consulate here now. But that's been one other area of growth that we have been responding to. And I think there's so much more potential for growth, and we hope to try and take on these areas and find other ways in which we can serve new members of Washington, but also serve, as I said, the general Washington public's interest in the region and in these larger issues. So I'll pass this to Sheetal now.
That's amazing. Sheetal.
Great. So the India-US relationship, many have pointed out, is at an all-time high. Just 3 pieces of evidence for that is one is right here, Consul General Gupta. The Indian government announced the opening of this embassy or consulate 7 years ago, but finally this happened. Prime Minister Modi came and made this offer, right? Again, a reflection of the collaboration that's happening. Second is something called the Quad, which is this organization that is developed to deal with issues in the Pacific. It's Japan, US, Australia, and India. Dealing with peace, security. It's another entity that's been resurrected in 2017 and now is being invigorated. And I think finally it's just the security relationship is stronger, right? In the past year, according to the State Department, India conducted more joint military exercises with the US than any other country. Well, I could even say a fourth thing in terms of trade. Bilateral trade is an all-time high as well, with goods reaching $133 billion in 2022. And United States is India's top trading partner and most important source of foreign direct investment. So I think, with that as well, Washington State has been an important contributor in that. Washington exports to India totaled $1.1 billion. And obviously the industries in our state, technology, aerospace, agriculture, clean energy, perfectly align with India's needs. I think another way in which one can think of the strength of the relationship is the diaspora community. One, I think, really phenomenal trend is that in the Washington state, Indians now are the second largest foreign-born population. Yeah, I know, amazing, right? Let that sink in. It's why? Because the population has doubled. The Indian population has doubled in the last 10 years, largely related to the tech sector, right? Highly skilled workers are here. Of course, the population here precedes that. In 1924, you had 1900s, you had a Sikh community here. And I think this diaspora is also connected to India. It sends over $135 billion in remittances were sent to India by the global diaspora in 2023. So these connections and collaborations, I think, show a great level of connection. And I would say, to me, what's surprising is not why it's so high, it's why hasn't it been high for 75 years since India's independence in 1947. And that's for a different discussion.
Well, we're at time for Q&A, so let's jump to that.
David's so kind to share a microphone with me while I look for our first question. I'll share with you all that one of my daughters, and I'm white presenting and white, her favorite celebration is Holi, which is something that happened from her Indian counterparts at school. Love to share that story with you. Questions? We don't have any AI questions from Jeff Borick. All right, we've got a question from Brett.
I do have a question. If we could ask the lady from, I think it's Taipei, Taiwan, a question. Is there a person, you're from Taiwan? How is the United States doing with Taiwan? I think Taiwan is going to be a bigger and bigger discussion in the world.
I'd like to intervene here. I think we need to stick with the panel. Please. Sorry, Fred, not right now. We're going to do a topic with Director General Daniel Chen right here.
In the future.
So I'd like to move to the panel.
We have a question from Linda.
Thank you so much. Love hearing all the facts that you talked about today. I mean, some knowledge that I just learned just from hearing from all of you today. My question is, and I'm sorry, I'm Linda Lowry, is, India is such a tech-forward country, but I really want to delve into the rich culture. Jen mentioned Holi and arts of India and how you're incorporating that here into our culture here in Seattle.
First, thank you so much, Linda, for this excellent question. I wish somebody also delved into Indian art, culture, and heritage more here. I think I was looking forward to that question. And I must also place on record my thanks to Linda, who's been very key in also getting us the right introductions in Seattle City and helping us connect with the right set of people in the media space and beyond. Thank you. Look, the tech story is one part of the India story, but there is also a very big historical legacy culture that you associate with Indian civilization, which is way beyond 5,500 years to be put in the least possible context of time. So when you look at India, and very simply put, even if you were to drive 100 miles down south of Delhi, drive down, you will run into a different language, you will run into a different face, you will run into a different religion and a different kind of God that is worshipped, and you will also run into a different cuisine altogether. So India, when it came together in 1947, was actually a conglomeration of a large diversity of princely states. From 1947 till now, it's just been close to 78 years in the journey of us as a nation. But the biggest plus is our story on unity in diversity. India is home to all religions in the world. All religions of the world coexist, cohabitate, and thrive. So when it comes to the culture piece, we at the consulate are really looking forward to project this again in partnership with universities in Pacific Northwest. We are trying, and we have discussed this with both with Seattle University and University of Washington, to do something called an India Culture Week celebration, where we bring an immersive experience of India for consecutive 5 to 6 days to university campuses for young American minds to experience things like an Indian film festival, an Indian food festival, an exhibit on Indian tourism, culture, and arts and heritage, and every evening showcasing cultural dance performances of some of the diverse states of India. We want to do eminent Indian lecture series. So these are some of the bouquet of items that will grace universities here. We are planning to do that in October to bring it right to US audiences here. Plus, there are also things happening beyond what the government is doing. There is a very important Indian cultural festival called the Jaipur Literary Festival, which is planning to be in Seattle somewhere towards September. That will bring the best of Indian authors, poets, folk art performers to the city. So there is a lot to look out in the culture space in the coming months, and we will work together with all like-minded stakeholders here to showcase this rich history of what India is represented as an idea in the Pacific Northwest. So that's what we are trying to do. Sorry for this long answer.
Just, this will be just wrap up questions, comments on both of your parts, please.
Very quickly, Linda, thank you for raising that. We appreciate that. This has been, I think, a part of our effort for a very long time. We've had musicians, Indian musicians, spend 6 months at the University of Washington. The tabla player Zakir Hussain was one of them. We've had Indian painters come through. We also support dance performances, and I think there's always more to be done, but we look forward to partnering with community organizations like Ragamala, which is one that I encourage you all to look up, that does focus on Indian cultural performances, particularly in the music domain.
So I do think that's a great question. I think Seattle is trying to come to terms with how to expand arts and culture from India. The Asian Art Museum is doing, has some South Asian art, but I think it wants to expand and do more events. We have a great film festival here called Tasveer, which is a South Asian film festival. In our own university, we have artists as well as authors of Indian origin. We hosted Prachi Gupta, who is a diaspora author. So our Round Glass Center is interdisciplinary, and we will collaborate with Jaipur Literature Festival as well as Cultural Week. So I think you'll be seeing many more. So get on our listserv, talk to Shannon and I, and we'll happy to also share everything that we're doing and welcome you all to attend.
Yes, likewise. And Nick Gottschall, the managing director of the center, is right there. Thank you.
Do we want one more question or are we done?
If we can do one rapid fire question.
Awesome.
Has to be really quick. Nancy's going to head up to the podium.
Well, thank you for the excellent presentation. David and I have been involved in international education. India, I mean, one of the things, the great things that export beside Bollywood is the post-secondary education, which is not necessarily the undergraduate. The product, we see it in all the high-tech companies. What is India doing to promote the outbound students to India as opposed to the incoming students for graduate program? Because I've personally been in many institutions in India, in Bangalore, and Hyderabad, and Delhi, and in Gujarat. You had excellent programs, which could be, especially given the tuition that's happening in North America. So it's a great destination for students from Africa and the Middle East, but not from Europe and North America. So what is India doing about that?
Thank you so much. Again, a good question. And it's not a facet that has gone unnoticed, I would say. It has been noticed, and that's where I said the narrative of cooperation in the higher education space needs to change and become a two-way street, which I alluded to in my earlier remarks. So what's happening in terms of concrete proposals is last year, I think early last year, the Parliament of India passed a legislation which now enables even foreign universities to work in partnerships with Indian eminent centers and establish specialized centers of research or even affiliate campuses in India. At this point of time, there are active proposals from, as far as I know, 3 to 4 universities from here in the United States to look at setting that up. And again, not just focus at the US students, but look at a larger combination of students from South Asia, beyond North Asia, to come and utilize these centers. The other things when it comes to having talent from the US partner with or have a greater presence in Indian campuses, we have identified, as I said, as part of the ISET space, specific areas where we would like senior American students, when I say senior, researchers, scholars who are more beyond the postgraduate specialized research to work together with Indian scientists. And I think if we give it a little more space, say another rest 2 years, you would see change happening in some of the sectors that I have outlined, where Indian universities, particularly the IITs, now are keen to collaborate with US researchers, US scholars to get them to India and work together. And again, similarly have this joint research move into its next page in some other country or some other corner of the world where the fullest fruition of the subject could be brought to bear. That's where we are at this point of time. Thank you.
So to just say, I think we have a disproportionate sense of what education is in India here in the US. And, you know, with all due respect to everyone here, the higher education institutions that are government funded, some of them are amazing. And that's why they produce all of these great people. And many of them come and become CEOs of corporations here. But the government education system from the prime K to 12 is really, really not as strong as it needs to be. And I think that's one of the shortcomings of the India growth story. Education is an absolute need for India to improve at the lower levels. So you're not seeing the average person that's coming here from India. You're having a different perception of it because of what you think, but what we see here. So that's just, you know, I think the one comment about what I hope we can work with India to improve that, and Consul General.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the 4 of you for what an incredible informative panel. We learned so much. Most of us will go back and watch the presentation again to take some more specific notes on all the things we learned, because there's just too much that you shared with us. Thank you so much. We look forward to your presence here again regularly. Thank you. And now we have our Sergeant at Arms, Jen, with some updates, announcements of upcoming events.
Hello, everyone. This Friday is Earth Day, and we have a very quick video to show you about a big event that we have going on Saturday. If that can be played now. Wonderful, thank you. Please consider donating your old lithium-ion batteries. It is a huge issue, and there are 13 Seattle Rotarians that will be volunteering there this Saturday. So if you don't have anything to donate, which I'm sure is not true, please stop by and thank one of them. It makes a huge difference. And happy Earth Day, which is on Friday, I believe. See you then. And then on May 1st, we have our No Cook Bag event. Our SRSF grant went to the Pike Place Foundation, and Lillian Sherman will be putting on a No Cook Bag preparation event prior to our Wednesday meeting here at the Westin. You'll meet first on the 4th floor to get those bags put together. It makes a huge impact to that foundation. And then on that same day, we have our lunch meeting with Rob Dunlap of Cascade PBS, the premier regional public media organization offering the best of public broadcasting, local original productions, public interest journalism, and community events. You'd be really, really, really sad to miss that. And then also on the 1st, we have a really big day. We've seen today how important it is to appreciate other people's cultures and the things that it brings to America. And FEDVA is doing for ethnic dinner, hosting the ethnic dinner at Noi Tai. I believe that's in Green Lake. And she sent out a couple of emails. So if you'd like to go, I think you still have time. And then on May 4th, we have Elwha Exploration Day. We have a QR code so that you can purchase your $10 ticket. I heard that's an event you don't want to miss. I missed it last year, and I don't think I'll be doing that again. And then on the 8th, I don't think I need to say much more about our May 8th All Club meeting. Jaime really primed us for that to let us know how important it is that we are all there as a congregation to understand what needs to happen to continue to have such a fantastic club. So I'll see you there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jen. Of course, the president always has something more to say, but it's because most people didn't remember, or some didn't know, that we actually have a regular strategic plan in our bylaws that is done every 3 years. And so this year, the group did that activity, and they decided to change the name of it. Instead of a boring name like Strategic Planning Task Force, they decided to call it the Future Visions Task Force, which I thought added that good, helpful momentum forward, because I never really would have thought of a root canal as an analogy for something, because so many of us, love what's going on in the club and love our Rotary experience. So I have a better analogy. Sorry, Jaime. It's more like a house where you maybe had a little foundation problem in the corner of the house. You still love the rooms and the music is great and you sleep there and cook awesome things there and so much good happens. But at some point you have to take care of that foundation to keep things going. So that's optimistic Nancy's way of saying we are going to fix the corner of that foundation and make this an awesome club going on for 115 more years. Okay, we're going to keep beating your numbers there, Bellevue president. Yeah. Awesome. So, and at this time at the Rainier Club, we will have food and beverages. So to keep you sustained for listening and hearing the task force members who are all listed on the screen. They put in hundreds of hours. We're so grateful for their time involvement. And they really came up with some real important information. So please read the report. And one important thing to remember is the task force gives a lot of issues and guidance and suggestions, but they haven't necessarily said this is the blueprint of how we go forward. So they're going to be having an implementation task force that's going to guide us forward, which is really important to have our thoughts shared at that, big special gathering. And then that new implementation task force will be there that night too, and they'll be able to hear some of the input and really feel like your voices are being heard. So I like to think of the good things that we have going. We're going to keep those kind of things going, but the things we need to shore up on our foundation, we'll do that, and we'll be going in the future. So thanks again to our incredible guests, and Diplomacy Day is going to continue every year, and we look forward to having 70 of the Diplomacy members here next year. That's a challenge. How's that, Mark? You're going to get them all there? So we are adjourned.